Today we're going to go through the setup of Boomerang for Azure. So the first thing you do is deploy the virtual appliance. I've already downloaded my OVA, so I'm just going to right click deploy my OVA, and this will allow me to select my host and data stores and network and everything I need to connect to. For it to work into Azure, obviously it's going to need to be network connected, or internet connected, so make sure I select the right network for that. I'll just give it the right name, separate it out. Select my host. The storage, thin provisioned is fine for these environments. Disk is not really that important for this appliance. Nothing is actually stored on the actual appliance itself. It's just used as a connection directly into the Azure environment. So after I click deploy, you'll see it go along. Now I've just sped this bit up just because it takes about 30 seconds or so. So moving on. Once that's deployed, we go through the power on, and this will actually give us an IP address, and we just have to browse that new IP address there. Just doing a reload of my Azure portal there, so I can just refresh it. I put in the IP address of the appliance. I'll get presented with the screen. First off, it'll be a prompt around my certificate. We're just using self-signed SSL certificates, so we just need to accept that first time around. Just going to set my region and time zone, and then set the admin password and save that, and we're ready to go. Alright, so the first step when we do the setup of a Boomerang appliance is we create a credentials profile. In the case of Boomerang to Azure, we're basically connecting our VMware environment up to our destination environment, which is the Azure environment. So I need to provide some credentials for VMware, being my login, password, and the host that we're going to connect to. Then when we're connecting to Azure, we need to supply what we call a publish settings file. Now the way we generate that is by simply clicking on the pop-up there, and if you follow the links there, it'll actually automatically generate that publish settings file. Just give that a moment just to load in. You do need to be logged into your console there, so it's just downloaded at the bottom of the browser there, and I'm just going to drop that file onto the web page into that file setting, and now let's drop that in. There we go, and that's just a credential which allows access to the back APIs of that. Now I need to display a storage account name. This is a globally unique name, basically a DNS name, and then a container inside that cloud storage account that we're going to use to put the data into. We put those in block blobs. I'm selecting the closest region to me, which is Australia East, and then we click Save Profile, and it's just going to go through and do some validation. So we can see our ESX environment is validated, and we're just going through checking on the Azure environment. Once that's actually done, you'll see it go through and save, and we get dropped back to the dashboard. So this just takes a couple minutes for it to go through the creation of the storage account and then the actual creation of the container. Once that's done, we should be all set to go. Okay, so creation's done. If I go to protection groups, I'm going to go through and actually create my first protection group for this environment. So onto my first protection group, I'll select my Azure profile I just created. I'll give it as just a simple protection group name. And I'm going to specify, I want to replicate this one manually, so I'm just going to set it onto a non-recurring schedule. As we're going through the creation of the protection group, there's a discovery happening in the background. We find the VMs that are in your VMware environment and match them up to ones that can actually be deployed into the Azure environment. So you can see there's my list. Some can be deployed, some can't. The ones that can be deployed, you get the warning sign or a green tick. Right now support is for mainly Windows images. We do have support for Ubuntu and Debian at the moment, CentOS, and most of the other distributions will be coming along within a few weeks' time. So I'm just going to select a couple of VMs here, Windows 1 and one more. let's just stick with that one. So I'll save that. It's a nice small one, only 10 gig. Should make the replication a bit faster. So first time around, we need to actually seed the data up there. So I'm going to just click the replicate button, and that will go through the replication, and we can watch the status of that as we click through. So I'm just going to go through to my activity page and just view the details and just watch that replication complete. Now this is a seed, so first time around this can take a few moments to complete. Will go at the speed of your connection to the internet. What's actually happening here is we've gone through, when that replication started, we've gone through and actually created the storage account there. So just wait for it to refresh. There it is. There's my storage account. You see you've got a collection of blobs, tables, and queues. They're all standard things that come with a storage account on Azure. And there's the container. And what you see happening inside that container is the actual blocks of data getting written up there. And that's how we actually go through and copy everything up into the Azure environment. Now obviously I've sped this one up, so the actual transfer speed, you'll see it'll pop up in just a moment, but for this one it's about 10 gigs, so it takes only about 20 minutes or so for that to actually go through replication. I believe most of that is occupied, so it is about 90% full, but it's a very small version of that. So there you go, it was roughly 14 minutes to actually do that replication. Next steps will be to go through deployment.